Hi, I'm Ferre with TaxSaleSupport.com. I'm here with Swenson, and this is one of our bad deal reviews where we look at different properties that have come through the tax sale market here recently with prices that didn't really make sense to us in terms of how much they sold for at auction. So let's pull up the property here so we can review it. And what we're looking at right here is a single-family home in Michigan. And the property sold for, well, it opened up, the minimum bid was $7,700, but it sold for $199,250. So basically it sold for $200,000 plus there's probably additional fees on top of that. So the buyer probably paid somewhere in the neighborhood of, $205,000, $210,000 for this property. The odd part I wonder about just is why, because I mean, it appears to be a single family home, appears to be usable, but it seems like they paid over market value for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting in looking at the property. Occasionally we'll see somebody pay up to close to market value, but those are usually going to be prime properties and prime locations. This is probably in an area that's not bad, but we are looking at an older home. Even in looking at the property, one thing I can see is it looks like something is taped there to the window. Now, maybe that's, nothing that's important, but it very well could be a notice from the city or from the county about something that needs to be done, something like a nuisance lien or finding out more about it. And so whenever we see that, that's at least a question mark. Also, like Shade said, they ended up spending $199,000 on a property that on its good day is worth 196. It's probably not taking in the condition and the rehab work that needs to be done. So let's say that they even need to do $30,000 or $40,000 in rehab to try to sell it for that $196,000 or $200,000 price point. That means that they're going to be losing, probably 40 to 50 grand just in rehab cost and changing that tax deed into a warranty deed through the quiet title process. So either way you look at it, this investor probably is going to lose between 50 to 60 grand in trying to get the property to the condition that it needs to be able to sell it for $200,000.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's probably what they overpaid by, at the minimum of at least, they paid at least $60,000, let's say too much, at 200,000. If they paid $140,000 for the property, again, it wouldn't be profitable, really for them there, but at least they wouldn't be in a hole there where they're going to lose money on it. At least they could, if they put the money into the property at that point to fix it up, they could get their money back out of it probably, if that's all they were into it. But again, they just overpaid for it by a large amount. I mean, we rarely would pay even 50% for a property. It would have to meet certain criteria. Like for instance, it would have to be newer, or it would have to, for some reason, we would have to be convinced that we wouldn't need to put much work, if any work, into the property at all if we were going to pay that high of a price point. On most properties, we're closer to like 30% because we're trying to take into account that they're going to need work. So the work that's going to be there, we want to pay a low percentage of, so that if it does come up, if we need to pay and put $20,000 or $30,000 into the property, it's not going to kill the deal.
Yeah, exactly. To kind of give you guys an idea, if we were bidding on this property, we would probably set our high bid between, 70 to 80,000. Maybe a little bit more, maybe even a little bit less, because we'd probably try to pay between 25 to maybe 35% of the property's value. If it's in a good area where there's property selling quickly, then maybe we'd spend that much. But this is an older property, and we don't know what type of rehab needs to be done with it. It did provide some photos of the exterior, but on this particular property, they didn't provide photos of the interior. So that's a big unknown. And because it's a big unknown, we need to make sure that we pick it up for a cheap price. So in this case, the investor is losing quite a bit of money on buying this property. And we want to show you guys these examples so you know what to watch for. If you've done the research and you start bidding against another property or another investor and they start bidding up the price where it doesn't make sense, you need to create your high bid and stick to your high bid. That's where we see investors and people lose money, is where they start bidding above the research that they've done and the high bid that they've set.
Yeah, I mean, generally our high bids are set as a percentage of value, and so we know when our high bid hits, pretty easily. And in this case, the only way I think you go up quite this high is if you haven't set a maximum bid on the property and you're basically bidding it up to what you think the property is worth. And the problem with that is, again, that's going to take you right up to market value. And that's just really not what tax sale investing is about. It's meant to be a wholesale strategy. You're meant to come into it and pick it up at a fraction of value because, again, you need to go and clear the title. You're going to, oftentimes these properties are going to need work as well in addition to that. And so you don't want to pay a high percentage of value for a clouded title property, which is what they did in this case. They basically paid full market price for a clouded condition, or basically for a wholesale market property, which would be kind of like paying new car prices. So it's like paying it's like paying $50,000 for the used car, that was maybe 50,000 when it was new, but now it's got 50,000 miles on it. That's kind of what they did here, is they just overpaid for what they were picking up.
Yeah, definitely. And so, if you see these type of deals, definitely avoid them. Stick to your high bid amount. If you'd like to learn more, go ahead and check out our website, taxsalesupport.com. We really believe our membership program is the best value in tax sale education. It's going to give you access to our weekly webinars, to our programs, to our materials, and also to all of our auction list. We scour the country, have been doing this since 2007, providing our membership program where we provide all of the auction list and links back to the online auctions. So if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. And we also provide a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it gives you the chance to go ahead and check it out.
Yeah, you bet. Well, thank you so much for watching this video, and be sure to hit that thumbs up video if you like it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.